One of the ways to find your purpose is to listen to what people are saying about you. In the process, sometimes people inadvertently reveal to you what God has called you to do. And they do this in at least 3 ways. Number 1, they tell you indirectly. Number 2, they tell you positively. And number 3, they tell you negatively. In the past few weeks, I have shared how people can help you find your purpose by telling you indirectly and positively. In the next few minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you how people can tell you about your purpose negatively. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome again to How to Find God's Will for Your Life, Part 14. Today, I'm going to be dealing with how people can help you find your purpose by telling you about it negatively. This is the case when somebody tells you sarcastically, cynically, or tease you about something they imply or suggest that you cannot accomplish. When people make fun of you or sneer at you or say things about you to suggest that you cannot accomplish a specific undertaking, a specific occupation, or a specific vocation. For example, perhaps you may be familiar with the African-American actor, the late Michael Clarke Duncan. He was the tall, towering figure in the movie Green Mile. He played the character of John Coffey, the big, tall, towering African-American character in the movie Green Mile alongside Tom Hanks. Many years back, prior to becoming an actor, he used to dig ditches, and he had told his co-workers that he wanted to be an actor. But his co-workers teased him and made fun of him and implied that he will never accomplish that feat. He mentioned how his co-workers often teased him while he was digging ditches by telling him that he had a phone call from Bruce Willis about a movie. They kept teasing him about that. They even nicknamed him Hollywood to tease him, to suggest that there's no way he was going to be an actor. Of course, he became an actor. Not only that, he also ended up starring with Bruce Willis in the movie Armageddon. In addition to that, the role he played in Green Mile, the reason he got that role is because Bruce Willis put in a word for him to get the role. And he was even nominated for both a Golden Globe and an Oscar. Imagine that. His co-workers were making fun of him that he will not become an actor. They teased him. Little did they know that they were prophesying to him what was going to happen for him. They literally mentioned and joked and teased about Bruce Willis, calling him about a movie. Well, it turned out that that's what happened for him. But the point I'm trying to make is people inadvertently and negatively can help you find your purpose. Have you ever been in a situation where people at different times in your life have told you about a specific vocation that they said you cannot do? For example, people might say you'll never be an actor, you'll never be a doctor, you'll never be a judge, you'll never be a teacher, you'll never own your own business. What makes you think you're going to be a model? What makes you think you're going to write a song? Things like that. If people at different times in your life have said things like that to you, negatively, sarcastically, cynically, and you never even told them what you were trying to do, sometimes that's a telltale sign that that's exactly what you're supposed to do. I've been talking about Moses. I mentioned that Moses killed an Egyptian in Exodus chapter 2. He killed an Egyptian because the Egyptian was maltreating one of his countrymen. An Israelite man was being bossed around and being mistreated by an Egyptian. The next day, Moses sees 2 Israelites fighting each other, and Moses tried to resolve their conflict. And one of the Israelites told Moses, "Who made you a ruler and a judge among us?" The guy refused to accept Moses' help. In the process, he sarcastically mentioned, "Who made you a ruler and a judge?" Well, it turned out to be a ruler and a judge after all. Perhaps you heard the story of Joseph. He had a dream in Genesis 37. He mentioned it to his brothers, and his brothers said, "What makes you think you're going to rule over us?" He told the same dream to his dad, and his dad says, what makes you think your mother, myself, and your brothers are going to bow down to you? Well, you notice Joseph never told them what his dreams meant. He never interpreted his dreams. His brothers and his fathers did negative. Well, Joseph turned out to rule over them after all. Joseph turned out to be the governor of Egypt, to whom they have to bow to. Imagine that. Are people interpreting your dreams for you? Are people telling you about your dreams negatively and you're not even aware of it? Both in Moses and Joseph's case, the people that came against them negatively by what they said inadvertently revealed to them what they were supposed to be doing. The same thing can be said about Jesus. When he was being crucified, the last hours of his crucifixion, the soldiers, they were mocking him, and they said to him, "Oh, hail, King of the Jews." Well, he turned out not only to be the King of the Jews, but the King of Kings and so much more. So what I'm saying is, pay attention when people come against you, make fun of you, tease you, say negative things about you, and in the process say things like you'll never become X, Y, and Z. You'll never become an astronaut. You'll never become a business owner. You'll never become a tailor. You'll never become a fashion designer, a model, whatever the case may be. Especially when you never told them what you wanted to do in the first place. In so doing, they are inadvertently revealing to you what God has called you to do. So that's the 7th guideline about how to find God's will for your life. People tell you about it in 3 ways: indirectly, positively, and negatively. So to do a quick recap of all I've been sharing for this past few weeks about how to find God's will for your life, understand that God's will can be viewed from 2 categories. God has a generic will and God has a specific will. God's generic will is God's will in general. God's specific will is God's will that is specific to an individual. God's generic will is the same for everybody. That's why it's general. God's specific will is only specific to an individual. It's not the same for everybody. God's generic will deals with who you are. God's specific will deals with what you do. God's generic will deals with your character. God's specific will deals with your works or your performance. God's generic will is timeless, meaning you can start today to begin to fulfill God's generic will for your life. God's specific will is time specific. Certain things that you're supposed to do, there's a time for it. An example of God's generic will is love God, love people, live a godly lifestyle, live in a way that is pleasing to God, be kind, be good, be giving. Those are general things that God requires of us all. We can start doing them right now. And more often than not, when we ask the question, what am I supposed to do with my life? More often than not, people are really asking not about the generic, but about the specific. And I shared 7 guidelines that will help you find the specific things that God has called you to do. And I mentioned that it does not necessarily mean one thing. It could be a number of things over a period of time. And the 7 guidelines again are: number 1, it is through God that you will find it. Number 2, you will have a heart for it, meaning you will have a desire, a passion, or longing for it. Number 3, there's a time for it. Number 4, there's a place for it. Number 4, there's a place for it. And this place could be a spiritual place or a physical place. The spiritual place is where you are with God, and I explained that it's a state of brokenness, a spiritual brokenness. The physical place is a geographical location or a physical place. It's an environment that you have to be in order to fulfill what God has called you to do. The 5th guideline is that you will have the ability for it, meaning you will have the gift, the talent, the skills for what God has called you to do. The 6th guideline is that you have expressed it. In the past, there are things you've done that is relevant to what you're supposed to be doing with your life. The 7th guideline is that people tell you about it, and they do this in at least 3 ways: indirectly, positively, and negatively. Thank you for indulging me for this past few weeks. I hope this series has been a blessing to you and has lit up a light bulb in your head regarding what God has called you to do. Please leave your comments. Thanks for sharing to those that you know need to hear this. Thanks for the likes. And until next time, you know what to do. Take care and stay blessed.